Welcome and congratulations on making it to the 18th and final Lesson Lab module titled Tailor Your Teaching that was designed and produced by GoTeach11. Your journey starts here. In this module, you'll be able to define the need for differentiated instruction. You'll identify a few methods for differentiating instruction and be able to apply the learning to differentiate the content, process, and/or product in a mini lesson. You'll earn credit for this module by differentiating 2 out of the 3 in a mini lesson: the content, the process of learning, or the end product. We'll read a short article about differentiated instruction. You can access a link to this article in your Canvas resources when the time comes. Now that we have our focus, know how we'll show our learning, and the materials we'll need, let's get to work. Not too long ago, it was typically the elite few who received formal education. Today, thankfully, it doesn't matter what the status of your parents are. Every student in the United States has the right to free and appropriate schooling. Since we educate every student, a typical classroom is bound to have a wide variation of performance levels, which does complicate the lesson planning process. To be an effective teacher, you'll need to have the belief that every student can. This means knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your students and providing them opportunities for success. The attempts to tailor your teaching to meet the needs of your diverse group of students is known as differentiating instruction, and it's the focus of this module. Differentiating instruction is a dense topic. There's much more to know about it than we can cover in this video. Nonetheless, we hope to address the fundamentals of this topic so that you can apply the ideology in a mini lesson. First, we need to have a working definition of differentiated instruction. Carol Ann Tomlinson is a name and educational expert that is associated with differentiated instruction. She provides a brief overview in an article that was published by the website Reading Rockets. Although it appears the information is tailored for elementary reading teachers, the big ideas are captured nicely and we can make connections to other contents. Please pause and read this article now by accessing the link in your Canvas resources. Differentiating instruction means varying your methodology to meet the needs of every student. This can happen by tailoring the content you present, varying the way students process the content, and providing options for the end product in which students show their learning. The slide contains a few different options to tailor the content of instruction. Consider the TEKS and where your students may be in relation to mastering them. You may need to start instruction at a lower level of rigor and scaffold the learning experience so that by the end of the lesson, they're meeting the demands of the standard. Another way to tailor the content is to relate the learning to students' interests, being culturally relevant in the problems and texts that you present. As you gain experience and you gather instructional materials, you can offer a choice of activities and offer a choice of text. Think to yourself, are there multiple representations of this concept? Which ones will different students relate to the most? What other text might accomplish a similar goal? One way to differentiate the content is paying special attention to the vocabulary. To do this, you'll need to think, what words or concepts are students likely to know and not know, and how can I create a quick experience that allows them to attach meaning to the word? The final suggestion for tailoring content is providing text at multiple reading levels. You'll need to consider how much of the text the students can understand on their own. We'll give a little bit more information about reading levels in the next slide. Reading levels. In any given classroom, you could potentially have a wide range of reading ability. You may have some students who are reading above grade level, on grade level, or below grade level. No matter what, there'll need to be plenty of opportunities for students to work with the grade level text. Now, students can understand more when a teacher guides instruction, when they guide the reading. Thus, instructional reading levels are higher than independent reading levels. Whenever you ask students to read something where they understand 90% or fewer of the words, they'll be working at the frustration level and struggle to understand what they're reading. They may lose motivation to continue if they have little interest in the topic. An idea here is that when you want students to read something on their own or even with a partner, they'll most likely understand and be able to do something with the information if the text they're reading is at their reading level. NewsELA.com and ReadWorks.org are online platforms that provide free leveled texts. This means you could find one article that's written at multiple reading levels. You'll notice whenever you search for topics and select an article that there's a number next to each version of the text. For example, 650L. The L stands for Lexile. Lexile is a reading measure that shows how complex the text is by analyzing the vocabulary and the sentence structure. The higher the number, the more difficult the text. If you check your Canvas resources, you can find a document that correlates the Lexile measures to grade levels. The big idea here is that you can differentiate content by providing a text at multiple levels, and the sites here provide those multi-level text for free. Now let's shift over to differentiating the process for learning. We define process of learning as how the students learn the information as opposed to what they learn. So the process is how they learn the content. This creepy looking triangle represents the three primary areas in the brain that process information. We process information through what we see, what we hear, and what we feel. The more senses involved in the process of information, the more efficiently we can retrieve that information. Some students with learning difficulties, such as dyslexia, could potentially have disruptions in different areas of the brain. We could differentiate instruction for students with learning disabilities by incorporating multisensory instruction. This means, as opposed to simply lecturing, we present information that connects two or more areas of the brain. We'll learn more about this on the next slide. We have 4 super basic teaching techniques that allow for multi-sensory experience. Imprinting, which is writing a word on the board as you say it, connects the sound to the sight. Having a spelling procedure where students write the word as they say it connects the letters, or graphemes we call them, the spoken sound, and the feel of actually forming the letters. You could integrate multisensory methods into memorizing terms by connecting gestures or motions to the words as they're spoken. You connect the kinesthetic to the auditory, and there's even the visual aspect to it. And finally, visual cues or nonverbal representations add that extra layer of support as they provide another version of the spoken and written word. The combination of presenting the content in different ways and facilitating a multisensory approach to instruction leads to one of my favorite terms in education, message abundancy. Message abundancy is when students have additional opportunities to process the information. There's increased chances for retention because the students are experiencing the information many different ways over time. The learning thus far has been pretty dense, so I'm hoping that this table can help clarify how you can tailor the process for learning. Using multisensory approaches to instruction, helping students see, hear, and feel the content is a way to differentiate the process of learning. In addition, providing audio for students who have difficulties reading, or allowing students to speak and record themselves instead of writing are ways to differentiate the process. You could have an individual work with a peer who can help them out. or so they could work and build off of each other's strengths. Peer support is a way to differentiate the process, as well as incorporating talk stems. If you want students to speak academically and write academically, but they quite haven't mastered the structures of language to do so, providing talk stems allows them to get into that academic speech much more efficiently. And finally, gradual release is a way to tailor the process by supporting students early on in the lesson, taking some steps together, gradually releasing until they perform the learning on their own is a way to tailor the process. All right, we're ready for tailoring the product of learning, and to do this, we'll watch a video of a skilled teacher who allows students to create different products for learning. Access this video from the teaching channel in your Canvas resources. As you watch, see if you can notice how the tasks are provided at different levels through a learning menu, and how there are a variety of ways for students to show their learning. That class was super impressive. The students were authentically engaged, there was choice throughout, and a wide variety of ways for students to show their learning. I'm sure you can imagine it took a lot of prep work up front to be able to provide that sort of experience. This can be overwhelming, particularly for first-year teacher who's simply trying to figure out what the students need to learn. The good news is that over time, the more you teach, the more quality resources you gather, the more you work alongside talented teachers, the better you'll be able to differentiate. For the purpose of creating a mini lesson that has a differentiated product, consider the different ways students can express their learning while still meeting the demands of the TEKS. Seesaw.com is a website that allows a teacher to pose a question, and it allows for several options of response, including written response, audio, video response, and even a drawing response. Allowing for multiple types of response in the form of an exit ticket certainly meets the criteria for differentiating the product of learning. Congratulations, you've finished your learning for this module. The next few slides will help clarify how to apply the learning in your mini lesson. To earn credit for this module, you must differentiate your lesson in 2 of 3 ways: the content, process, and/or product. For that extra challenge, differentiate the task in all 3 ways. Here are a few tips to help you cover all your bases in this lesson lab. Consider you're a teacher who has a wide range of students in your class. Think about what you could do to make sure you're meeting every student's needs. During the early phases of the 15-minute mini lesson, think about how you might preview the vocabulary before reading or experiencing a text. Are there opportunities to teach the vocabulary in ways other than copying a definition? Can you connect any sort of gestures, visuals? Can you break the word down into different parts? Can you use multisensory methods like the ones described in the video? By incorporating this extra sort of vocabulary scaffolding, you're differentiating the process of the learning. If you select words that are specific to words that English language learners might not be familiar with, or phrases they may not be familiar with, then that would be differentiating for the content. You're highlighting different sorts of content for the students. After the initial phases, your students will need to experience some sort of text. You could differentiate the content of the text by providing text at different reading levels over the same topic, or you can apply different text that appeal to different interest levels, like provide something for students who are interested in these areas and something that other students might like. That would be another example of differentiating for content. Finally, your students will need to end their reading or conclude their reading, follow up with discussions that leads to some sort of writing at the end of the lesson. When they write, that would be the I do portion. So think about how you can provide options for what the students turn in at the end of the lesson. they'll need to write, but you can offer options for the writing for all students as well. Can they record themselves speaking, or can they tell you in person a summary or a collection of their ideas from the discussions in the reading? By allowing for different types of responses, you're differentiating the product of learning. This lesson lab is working with several advanced components of teaching. It is difficult, but it's realistic. These sorts of ideas and struggles and combination of ideas are things that you'll tackle with every day. The good news is that if you do need clarification, we're here to help you out, and we'd love to talk about the potential lesson plan or some of your ideas you have for your mini lesson and how we can really work these things together. So if you need any sort of help, please feel free to reach out to a certification coach. We're happy to help you at any time during your certification process. Thanks for watching this module titled Tailor Your Teaching that was designed and produced by GoTeach11. This video referred to an article about differentiation from Carol Ann Tomlinson that was published by readingrockets.com. We also referred to a video published by theteachingchannel.org and based the VAK triangle from the Irish Center's module on differentiated instruction. Images were downloaded from 123RF and Pixabay.